Live from the BOD studio, it is Playin and Slayin, episode number 97. Here, as always, I am Ty, and joining me is the illustrious Hall of Famer, the Bodfather himself, Troy.
Hi, Ty. How you doing?
Good. I'm going to keep just typing your introduction up from here on out. Every single time I'm going to add to it, so you'll have this long string of titles. That's just how we're going to do it. Episode 97. We were just talking about how that is a lot of episodes and a lot of years of doing this. And as we have gone through the year, you might be thinking, it's getting close to the end of the year. Usually these guys will do kind of like a best of podcast. Well, that will be our December episode. We're going to try to get Bryce back to record and talk about kind of our year in review. Tonight, we're going to just kind of go through the usual things and stuff and hobby, maybe a little bit of chatter about some of the Adepticon planning and strategies, but also talk a little bit about some of our favorite reads and books that we came upon this year, and kind of expand the library segment out a little bit. But yeah. When you are playing and slaying, it is important to stay hydrated. So I would definitely not leave this part out of every show either. Troy, what do you have to wet the whistle tonight? What are you?
I don't know why I'm so excited. I'm really excited. I was looking forward to it because we're kind of around Thanksgiving break. I don't know when this will be out, but we recorded it late. So I'm not actually working tomorrow, which a lot of times that. So I went for big and dark. And what we picked up at Gen Con, we're going to do a Gen Con callback to our friends at Sun King. This is with a collaboration with River Drive Cooperage. Cooperage? That's funny.
Cooperage.
Cooperage? Oh, Cooperage.
Barrels.
I thought it was a callback to Josh. So there we are. But so this is Badge and Barrel for people on YouTube that can see the label up there. It is barrel-aged porter with chocolate, caramel, and coconut. So, of course, looks like deep, rich
dessert.
And it's been it's whatever it's been aged, plus it's been aged another 6 months in my fridge. Ty, I can't. This is so smooth. This is so, and it again gets the coconut. There's a little that gives it a little interesting, and the caramel. I think also like
Does it have a little bit of that dragon's milk like vibe?
Yeah, a little. Yeah, you get a little bit of that, but a little. It's almost richer than smoother and richer than dragon's milk. Because I think it's probably not. I'm looking. I don't know what the alcohol is in here. Like I think the alcohol is so high in dragon's milk, you do get a bite to it, right? There's a little bit of. I'm not getting nothing in this. Like very. I keep waiting for kind of the finish and just super smooth. So I'm
there.
I was waiting for you, and I'm like, I'm going to open it. I'm going to start. And I'm very pleasantly surprised. So there is one more can in there. So maybe over here might need to split it or something.
I thought I saw that when I grabbed the soda out of the fridge when we were playing a game the other night. And I was like, ooh, it piqued my interest. So now I'm seeing it
again. It was one of the we're doing our typical let's get out of Indianapolis Sunday. We go to Sun King, load up the car, grab a lot of, and they always have a few special ones. I usually grab something that catches my fancy to try at a later date and remember. And this, very, very, I'm very happy with this one. So
fantastic. I feel like now I'm not holding up my end of the show. It is Third Space. So Third Space is always good. This is their pretty good amber. I might have even talked about buying some of it the last time because I just haven't been drinking a lot of beer at home. I've been kind of trying to cycle through some of my bottles of bourbon and other things. So had a couple left in the fridge, but pretty good amber, just a crisp kind of. I don't know why ambers always feel kind of like a fall beer, even though they're not specifically seasonal. But I'm trying to pretend winter is not coming here as we sit at the end of November,
Yep.
nearing Thanksgiving, ready for the long, dark month of December. So I'll pretend it's fall for one more night.
For more shows like this, check out the Goonhammer Media Network. More info at media.goonhammer.com.
All right, Troy. So we have had a couple of board game nights over the last few weeks.
As I was looking at our notes, a lot of times we play together, but a lot of times we have a lot of separate. I think almost everything. I think there's one or two where you have on here, but I think it's mostly been us at playing the same games, whatever. So this will be a lot of combined Troy and Ty list of what we've been playing. So it's been fun.
We've been taking Raf's advice and respecting game night and finding ways to game. Which I think the first one that we'll talk about is I've been saying for the last several months we should really find a night to get together downtown and kind of bring a friend, coworker and find a spot and play. So we on a Wednesday night after work met up at Component Brewing. They're a small kind of local brewery in Milwaukee. They're in this kind of the Lincoln Warehouse, which is kind of a cool property with a lot of there's like a distillery in there. There's like a restaurant. There's one or two breweries, and then some other stuff. But it's kind of right on the river, just south of downtown, so it's convenient to get to. And we so I brought a coworker friend of mine, Charlie, and you showed up with not Neil from work. Neil, nope. I feel betrayed. But Arthur from work.
From work, yep.
And we sat down and played a board game, and that game was Fate of the Fellowship. So I know, Troy, I think people were a little apprehensive maybe of playing Pandemic in some cases, but this is the Pandemic rules kind of reskinned and adjusted to fit the theme of Lord of the Rings, taking Frodo with the ring to Mount Doom to destroy it. And how that plays out is kind of the experience of when you think pandemic and disease spreading. In this game, it is the shadow of Mordor and the Nazgul and like the troops, Sauron's legions, kind of spreading throughout Middle Earth.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I think you had said you had played it Gamehole, right? I think.
Yeah, it had one play of it at Gamehole.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that. You guys played it on maybe super difficult mode or something. But this is good to get out. And then Arthur was like, pandemic, and basic pandemic. But if you wouldn't, I think we had talked about that, right? If you maybe didn't know pandemic, I don't think you'd recognize it, right? You wouldn't like see that. I think they took the pandemic engine and it just makes a lot of sense, and it creates, again, just like pandemic, you get a lot of kind of what's the word I'm looking for? And intensity, kind of stress, kind of build up.
Yeah.
As the armies go, a bunch of different things to worry about. Like, again, in pandemic, you're kind of like, you can't do quite everything at once, but you can't also not worry about, you have to balance things and get after there's four quests that you need to complete to win the game.
Yes. So one is always destroy the ring.
Yeah, the end one is always part, which I thought was really cool. Like, that is really cool. Like how much they've got. Somebody who did this really loved Lord of the Rings. They're really right, because it's kind of woven through everything, and it really feels like you are trying to play your version of the Lord of the Rings to get there. And all the characters. Again, that's a lot of. I think if you enjoy Lord of the Rings, it's just a really good game and you're going to enjoy it. And it also not, I don't know, right? It doesn't take super long to play. I mean, I don't know, we were a couple hours with learning it and goofing around and drinking beer and everything else. So I think it has a decent length. I don't know if we played the beginning ones. There's a bunch of different, you can swap out different quests, mess with the difficulty level, all kind. There's a lot of replayability there. And again, I think like Lord of the Rings, you're gonna. Yeah, I have it on my shelf behind me that I haven't played, but I'm glad it is because I think it's something that's going to hit the table every once in a while. Yeah.
The theme is on point. Like somehow they took it and they made it feel like you are recreating the events that happen throughout the trilogy, and you see in where your character starts and kind of their home location. So it is, you're gathering the fellowship. Like you have to come together to help Frodo get across the map, the game board down to Mordor. And each character has very appropriate actions available to them. Like Legolas can help, travel. He generates kind of stealth, which you can use to avoid having to roll for like the search rolls when the Nazgul are nearby, or the Eye of Sauron is focused on Frodo's region. And like the troop movement happens through the shadow cards that are revealed. So as your threat goes higher, you draw more of those, and there's more things coming to take over. And it felt really close at a few points in time where we swung the hope is your kind of your track. If hope ever is at 0, the players lose, and it starts at like 6 points. And if one of the havens, one of the good guys, like cities, falls to the shadow, you lose 3 hope. Or if things so like there's this constant loss happening. And as you complete your objectives, you spike that up a little bit. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a good game. I'd say our first Milwaukee chapter meeting of Forge was a success. I may have used ChatGPT to help me find an acronym that was loosely related to our new game group, which is the Financial Organizations Recreational Game Enthusiasts Milwaukee chapter. So Forge, since we all work in financial services. And then our so that was a first kind of game group experience, but then our regular kind of Frosthaven group, we got together at Josh's after having not played in a little bit, and got a Frosthaven scenario played, in which it also felt very challenging. We were on the clock in the scenario. I won't spoil it by any means, but you had to get to a certain point on the map by a certain round, and then every round more things were spawning as you had to exit. So there was definitely the sense of we could get locked in and struggle to get there. And then when we get there, we got to move quickly and execute a plan to break out. So it was a really well designed scenario. I think that's the one thing that keeps me coming back to Frosthaven, in addition to like the investment of time and story building, is really all of these scenarios are so unique, and I think well designed, that there's a puzzle each time you play that you're trying to solve it. I haven't had the sensation of this is just another dungeon crawl or another grind through enemies. Every one of them has had some type of rules mechanic or changing objectives that make for a unique experience.
And it again might be recency, but it definitely feels like, and by the last ones, it means like the last 6 months we've been playing that. It's like each scenario. And I think I don't know why I keep getting, because I keep thinking it's going to be like, oh, we're going to hit a regular kind of dungeon crawler scenario. Like we think, and then all of a sudden we open it up and it's like, oh no, there's a twist. And it's been every one. And it's kind of funny. Maybe I should I keep thinking we're going to get a normal one, and they're not, right? They're all have a little bit of a twist, which is kind of, so you can't kind of just assume you're going to do a straight one. They always have some kind of twist that messes with you, which is pretty good. So it'll be interesting because all our characters are pretty high level. So also we're going to have a little bit of a reset, I think, in the next couple sessions. So
we're all high level, and I think we have a couple retirements that'll even it back out soon, if we all can complete them. I know it feels like Josh has had his personal quest forever with no imps of the right type
Yep.
appearing to kill or something.
We keep picking they're cool scenarios, and we keep picking the wrong ones.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then we got together. Josh was not available this last weekend, so we got together with your brother John and got an Andromeda's Edge to the table. So this is a game that I think we have wanted to play for a while now since you got it. It is, I'll call it the spiritual successor to Dwellings of Eldervale that we've talked about in the past. I think I may have said is one of my favorite games, if not favorite board game ever. And I said there's only one or two things where I was like, oh, they could change this. And then we played Andromeda's Edge and they changed those things. And I was like, wow, okay, this is definitely a step forward from a game that I didn't know you really could step forward from. The designer's name is escaping me, but
Luke something.
Yeah,
I can see the box there, and I can see the other dwellings over there, and I can't read it. I want to say it's Luke something. We'll look then. Maybe the internet will help us.
Yeah, maybe the internet or YouTube comments or whatever. But like just incredible how it addresses, like in combat and Dwellings of Eldervale can be very swingy. This game, they introduced a mechanic where the number of ships, so this is a space kind of like 4X. You're trying to build developments on these planets, gather resources, fight other players, fight alien raiders that might come in. And the combat, when you have a number of ships, that kind of sets a minimum. It's your targeting number. So if I have 2 ships in a combat, if I roll any 1s, I continue to re-roll them until I have a 2 or higher. And you can always modify that. So your floor is higher. It doesn't change your ceiling, but it brings your floor up the more ships you put in. Whereas in Dwellings of Eldervale, I could have way more troops and be rolling way more dice, but be sunk by, a handful of 1s showing up on those dice with no ability to mitigate or change that that randomness. And then the other thing that I think they did, which is really cool, is everything's on the board. Like your scoring track, your various other progress tracks you go up, places to put the cards. There's no separate boards. The card trays fit on top, the pieces, the tiles lay out like in this grid versus I think in Dwellings you're putting these big kind of chunky hexes out and getting these weird kind of shaped like patterns that you don't know if you're going to go 10 spaces this way or and it controls it. So like just from I don't want to say box control, but like board control design. Really,
almost how do you call it? It's almost tabletop efficiency, right?
Yeah.
Like very, and although it was funny, and whether it was different or not, is like you ended up, and it just worked out because with your faction, there's 4 different, what do we call them?
Progress tracks.
Tracks, right, to go. And what was funny is you built out the one that was on your side of the table and blue, and then I built out the one that was in front of me, and I didn't build a lot of blue, but because I don't know if I was being lazy, I didn't want to lean over and look over on that side table, but it was kind of funny. But again, what's cool is because it's in a tray, it's on right there, but you could pick up the tray,
pick it up and look, and
look at it. So I think they did a good job of doing it. Although it's still, I was talking about, I don't know how people, I guess they were just spoiled. Like we play on my giant, it's more than 6x4 with the cover on it. It's like whatever, 6.5 by 8.5 or something like that. And we fill it right with these board games. They take up all the room, and we have, what's nice is you have plenty of room by yourself, right? You're not, the game sits in the middle, but I'm always like thinking like, how do people play this on a smaller table? They do. And it definitely does. But I think we're spoiled and that we have plenty of room when we're playing on our miniature tables. So,
I mean, great game. I would definitely look forward to playing that again.
And Luke Laurie, and this one, his son, I believe it's his son Maximus, also is credited, I believe.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
I think it was him and his son, I believe. The internet will correct me, but I'm pretty sure. They designed it again based a lot on what he had designed with Dwellings of Eldervale.
I mean, and it is clear that it is the spiritual successor, as they say, right? Like, um, the elements, the mechanics, the scoring, like there's so much that you're like, oh yeah, I recognize this. You almost you almost don't have to read the rules if you've played Dwellings of Eldervale. Like they change some things, so you want to read it and understand it.
Yep.
But I think you could sit down and just kind of understand it with like the symbol on the back, like the index explanation with
Yep.
how the mechanics worked from Dwellings.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting. Like John, we've said this right. People who've played that first play of Dwellings and the first play, like I think John enjoyed it, but it's like once you get done and you score it out, and then you get like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
now I get right. And I think we all went through it. Like when you played Dwellings first time, it's a lot to just to navigate the game, and you're kind of playing along and you're building out your stuff, but you're not really understanding like what strategy should I be after, and how am I doing that until you play it that first time. And then once you play it that first time, you're like, oh, all right, I get it now. I know. So it'll be interesting, yeah, to get to the table again, maybe with John and see what, because although I thought he was going to beat me actually, because we were nip and tuck. You kind of, we were close to the end. I'm like, oh, Ty's kind of, you got it. Cause you had done really well on one of the progress tracks. And I didn't think there was any way we were going to kind of catch you on that one. And then I got worried because all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I think John might actually have me, but I ended up sneaking, I think by about 10 or 15 points. I snuck him out because of that's where I went. I'm like, I'm just going to build whatever the settlements, whatever they call them, as much as I can. And hopefully I can score some points that way.
Yeah, I think like this kind of game, and what I like about games like this is your first couple times playing, you're really just exploring the systems and getting familiar with like what makes this game run, or like, how do I go up this track? How do I go up that track? And you kind of learn those systems, and then when you've played it a few times, you start to carve out, I think, some of those strategies of what you need to do and where you need to pay attention. And I really like that. I think there are games that you can sit down and play and get like right away, and then there are games like this where you kind of have to unpack the rules a little bit.
Yeah, and it's all like you literally can't play the game the same twice. Like you like, because you have different factions, because you have different planets, and different cards that are going to come up. Like even if you're like, oh, I'm going to play this faction and this is my strategy,
Right.
it may halfway through the game you may fall apart because some planets didn't show up or something, or one of your opponents is doing something completely different. So that's what's really, I mean, some of it is just the experience, right? I think that's the other one. Like there's so many, the actions are cool and building up the planet. Like, I don't know, for me, it's like win or lose, there's enjoyment and just like building it out and seeing how it's going to happen. Right. And then at the end, you're like, oh, let's score it out and see where we end up. Like you're trying to get there, but I don't know. I feel like the process is just as fun as whether I'm winning or losing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the journey, right?
It's not the destination.
Not the destination.
It's the journey. So,
and that journey through space and Andromeda's Edge was very, very much enjoyed. So already kind of thinking, when can we play that again? And then we've been having a lot of fun at home with Settlers of Catan. So a game that I probably hadn't played in a 10-year period, if not longer. I've played probably 4 or 5 times in the last 2 months since going out to visit my brother. We were at the game store, and we were looking, and Landon's like, oh, look at all these expansions. And I was like, yeah, I've heard like Seafarers is a really good one, and Knights and Cities is really good. So we might even do that. But then I also showed him, I took Access and Allies off the shelf, and he's big in World War II history. He's starting to like kind of the area control dudes on a map feel of like Catan. You're not really, but like the tiles, right? And building your cities. So I showed him the pieces. He's like, this looks really cool. Is it complicated? I said, it's, it'll take a while to play. Like you got to dedicate like an afternoon to it. He's like, oh, that'd be fun to try sometime. And I was like, I hadn't had that game opened in probably 25 years.
Yeah.
Like the box off the shelf, and looking at him like, oh, this is some things held up. Some of it was like, oh, this graphic design could have used a refresh, and they have the white styrofoam trays instead of
Yeah.
like, your I don't know. So I'm like, a newer copy might clean up a little bit. And
Yeah, and I think, does Renegade actually have the license? I mean, I haven't explored it, but I believe they also have
they've released
like
a
they've
ton
done
of
a bunch of
expansions.
different ones. So it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to look, because my guess is, they all feel like Axis and Allies, but I wonder if they've kind of modernized some certain parts of it or anything else like that. Or
Yeah.
because I know there's a whole bunch of them, versions of it out there that they, and my guess is right, they've continued to improve it and tweak it a little bit, and but there's still something to say about playing that old school Axis and Allies. Yeah, I mean, 80s.
Yeah.
I know
So
I played it on the 80s, like with my uncle, right, who was
yeah, I mean,
was a
I
big,
definitely played it
yeah,
in the 90s with my dad and my brother. Like that's where, it got played. And I think as in high school and maybe college, a few friends were like, we played a couple times where we'd sit up on a friend's like pool table, because you need a lot of space for that one.
Yep.
And play. So we might try refighting World War II, maybe over like winter break, or maybe even over Thanksgiving weekend. We'll see. So I'll report back and I'll be like, yep.
Yeah, I used to know strategy
took
for
the
that
Axis
tournament.
powers and destroyed me.
Yeah, I can't remember how to. There is ways to win at that game. I don't remember what the strategies are anymore, but Australia, it's all about Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
Let's talk hobby. So my hobby's been pretty limited. So I'll start, Troy. I'm supposed to be playing Relic Blade with Bryce on Saturday. So I couldn't bring metal minis. So I did start last night. I got really mad playing Arc Raiders. Didn't make it out, and I said, I'm going to call it early. And so at midnight, I started hand priming black my metal minis with the Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl primer.
There you go.
Really, honestly, 2 coats pretty much got me like black primed. I'll hold it up for anyone to see, but no metal showing
Oh,
through.
look at that. That looks good.
With a brush, just two coats. So then I think what I'm going to do is brush on some Army Painter matte sealer over the black, and then dry brush up with the gray and the white to do like the zenithal, but have the black sealed. I think that's probably how I'm going to approach it. So I try not to like chip off or fingernail off some of the paint. But I'd like to get at least a few colors on my Lone Guard unit, my warband, before I go up to visit Bryce.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. You'll have to report back and see, because my guess is, I don't mean that, especially if you're brushing on the primer, like it was probably thick enough that it'll all be about adhesion. Like, and I think the Monument primer is pretty sticky, but you should be in good shape. Back in the day, that's all we did, Ty. That's all there was metal. Like
I can't, like, I have nightmares of my old Imperial Guard catechins and like the metal Ogren squad that I had with them.
No, the Ultramarine Thunderfire cannon was the worst miniature. I know there's more. I'm sure there's worse ones, but that it was just so bent you could never.
The original metal Carnifex.
Oh,
that thing was like a brick. Like you could break a window with it.
It's back there somewhere, wherever. It's in that case right over there. I can't. There he is somewhere. Oh yeah, there he is. You can't quite see him in the picture, but he's back there. There's a whole shelf of old, like the old ones that they're more nostalgia, the nostalgia shelf. But there is a giant, that weighs just like the old dreadnoughts.
Yep.
But the metal Carnifex still looks pretty cool. That's the
can opener.
Yep.
All right. What have you been speaking of metal?
Trying to hobby. It's funny, Ty. They're not within reach, but they're close. So I'm exactly where you are, but with different colors. So I am trying to redo the Hormagaunts for Space Hulk, and so there's 30 of them over there that I are undercoated, sprayed, but not quite painted, so they're in progress. But when it was nice, when we had that 60-degree day, a couple whatever last weekend, I went. Although I realized I've been airbrushing priming so often. I went to go grab I was trying to find a white or light, and I had no rattle can white or even, I think I used Wraithbone. And that I realized, I don't, because I've always just been using my airbrush to do that. But I had moved my airbrush stuff around, so I didn't, and it was nice. I'm like, I want to do 30. I really didn't want to airbrush 30, whatever. So I ran over to Games Universe or something and grabbed a can of that. But it was funny. I'm like, I have black and I have all the others, but I didn't have white to do that. And then I have this plan. I'll save it. That I think we talked about it. That White Dwarf has what they call Space Marine Operations. They've been printing in rules in White Dwarf, which is the game that mimics Space Marine 2. And you can, it's kind of AI runs, and that's another reason I'll use the Hormagaunts probably in that too. But you use kind of the boarding actions terrain with the walls and stuff. And then you have like 3 Space Marines, just like Space Marine 2. And then they fight against kind of AI, Gene Stealers, Hormagaunts, that kind of, you can even get bigger, some of the things there. So I'm trying to I have a lot of the pieces, but I'm trying to get that together. I have the rules sitting over there. And so I'm trying to get that together. So I pulled out my Titus model that I can't remember where I got it from, but assembled that. And he also is primed, but not painted. And he's in my little handle, ready to paint, sitting right over there. So not a lot of colored paint, but it sounds like we're working well with primer, Ty. We're doing a great job.
Yeah, we're priming minis. It's the first step to getting them painted.
Yep. Assembly and priming. We're good. So yeah, and as you can tell, I did light colors, so I'm trying to, although I think Titus, I'm going to do like the reverse. I'm going to start white, and then I think I'm going to do like almost reverse Zenithal. Like I want to do like a shadow. I might do like a wash underneath, and then kind of come over with speed paint or something. I don't know. Trying to branch out. We'll see how that works.
Leave the face and shoulders.
Yeah.
Brightest.
Sorry, people on YouTube can't see. I'm going from the bottom to show. I'm going to paint from the bottom. I'm going to paint the shadow and leave the white coming down from the top. Kind of the opposite of Zenithal, where you do the white from the top.
All right. Well, let's move the Kickstarter. In other news, Simon hasn't updated the Dead Keep, which I believe is a dead game.
That one's at like I believe, right? They have their list of that one's like even at the bottom of the.
It's so like, please somebody buy this from us and get it off our hands. And but here November 21st, Joe Abercrombie's First Law trilogy kind of reprint, hardcovers, full art, personalized, signed posters, t-shirts, mugs, everything, merch for First Law, but first US printing of the hardcovers in quite a while. And I think it's 20 years since the first publication, I think is what I saw. But I went all in to get the beautiful kind of full art hardcover volumes of the First Law trilogy, the gold etched bookmarks, the posters. I did all in. I was like, it's never been easier to go all in on a Kickstarter than right now. And I clicked the button that within the first couple hours of that launching. I think if you didn't get in, you might be too late to get like the top, there were limited quantities, but I think you can still get like signature plate ones or other, just the hardbacks. But they did have like a limited number of like the personalized, like signed full art, whatever.
Because Joe's arms get tired. He can only sign so many thousand
thousand
things.
copies.
Yeah.
But it went over $1 million. So obviously it wasn't like Sanderson's ridiculous crap, but I don't think Joe and anybody was expecting like that, within 24 hours to clear $1 million, like just bam. But it goes to show you, I think he has a huge fan base. He continues to get more people shown his work and familiar, because like when the books first came out, I don't remember them being super popular.
Yeah, I'm trying
to. I think it grew like a groundswell of like support, and you started to see more and more people referencing Abercrombie, and I don't want to say we were early adopters, but I feel like we were.
I feel like we were there.
Yeah.
Yep. And I can't remember again where because it was you kind of had Game of Thrones, right? Around some of that time. And I think it was, so there was a market out there. And I think there was, at some point we all got, we're like, well, we're done reading Game of Thrones. What else can I be reading? And I think somehow then we started to stumble on the First Law stuff. And I can't remember. I wish, it's been so long. I can't remember where I got recommended it from or how I stumbled onto it.
2006, The Blade itself. I got introduced to it. So I was not an early adopter. I got introduced in 2011 when Danner read The Heroes. And I read The Heroes first and then went back and read First Law. So it was around the BOD Foundation where I got introduced. But I didn't know that it was 2006 is when the first, the book, The Blade itself, was published. And then I read everything since, including The Devils, which is not in that world, but his most recent book. What else? Did you end up... Did you go in at some level of First Law Kickstarter?
No, I did not. Mostly because I've been spending too much money on book. I am in about 2 subscriptions with Broken Binding. So I just spend a lot, and all the money I spend on GW Black Library books. So I didn't go all in on that. If they ever do, and I think it's because my favorites are actually the second, like the standalones are I would have done, like, don't even ask me twice to do the second ones, to do that. So yeah, I kind of held off because I'm like, I have a lot of special editions that I've been spending too much money on already, and I need to find space for them too. Because I just went in on books 4 through 6 of the Malazan through Broken Binding to add to that too. Yeah. So I'll drool over yours when you get them, but I controlled myself for this one.
All right. Tell me about this next one.
Are you familiar with Ghost in the Shell? The anime movie? You're not an anime guy.
No, I'm not an anime guy. I don't hate it. I just never really got into it. So Ghost in the Shell, I know they made into like a live action movie.
Yeah, I've never actually seen the live action movie.
So
Scarlett Johansson is in there. I can't even talk about it. I've never actually seen it. I'm like, oh, maybe I should watch it. But the original anime is amazing. Maybe that's how I'll get you in, Ty. There's like 2 or 3 different anime that I'm not a huge anime guy like some people, but there are a handful that I go back. And one of them is, this is from 90s, Ghost in the Shell. The basic story is you have I want to call it a cyborg. So female, she's kind of a police officer. You're kind of in Tokyo future. And so she's like almost a complete cyborg, but with again, that ghost, she's a human, right? There's a human brain in there somewhere. Right?
Okay.
And and there was also then a couple different series, and John, my brother John, he's more on it than I am, could talk about that. I've seen some of that, but the original movie was that. So they're like, Troy, where are you going with this? So what they did is there's a Kickstarter for, again, was the automatic click for me, was Ghost in the Shell RPG that they're putting out for that. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing. And then what it's using is they're actually using the Blades in the Dark engine, kind of underneath the hood, kind of, which would make sense because you're kind of doing combat, but it's kind of, it is kind of investigation procedural. That's kind of the idea of, because they were police and they're always trying, but then you had some really cool combats and things like that. So you look at it, I'm like, oh, this kind of makes sense knowing what we know about Blades in the Dark and things like that. So so I think it's still going on. I mean, like we said, it's November 25th. It might have a couple days left. Otherwise, my guess is it'll be available, late pledge or something else afterward or around that. So, and I don't know if again, it could be a little bit of a, like any Kickstarter nowadays, a little bit of a crapshoot here. And I don't know that the companies, they've done like 10 other projects, it seems like. So at least they have some. But I think a lot of their stuff they've done has been in like the anime kind of world, on some of that. Italian graphics, Mana Project Studio, they're in Italy, around some of that stuff too. So that's that's Ghost in the Shell. Cool. And I figured Blades in the Dark, I'd get you at least a little interested. Try at some point when I get it. We'll have to check it out.
So a little digression here from crowdfunding, but I've been playing a video game called Arc Raiders with my brother and Danner quite a bit, like more than we probably should, and too late. And the concept of Arc Raiders is robots took over. It's 2180. Humanity now survives underneath the earth in a city called Speranza, which is like, you get the feel of like Italy. Like you're, the world above is Italy. I don't know if it's actually Earth. They might have set it on a different planet, but that's the idea. And you go above ground to get resources and come back down. And I was talking with them the other night. I said, this would be a really fun RPG setting. Like, you're raiders, you go up to the surface, you have to fight against Ark or find mysteries or clues and come back down. And then I was like, we were talking, I'm like, I've heard of this Action Heroes. It's a 3D6 system that's very cinematic. But then I was also now thinking about Blades in the Dark and the clocks and the actions and a modern Blades in the Dark, because I think they have like the Star Wars like future spin. I think somewhere in there's likely a modern take on it, and where that would work really, really well.
Yeah, and they do have, and maybe I'll if you're people listening, you can go look too, I think, and Ty can share it with you too. But they do have the kick, or whatever they call it, first start rule set out for the Ghost in the Shell, and that's what made looking through that. And it's not just like 3 pages; it's like 25 pages. So it'd be interesting. Cool. Yeah, take a look at that, because I think that they did kind of like, how do you do this with and kind of the modern idea and the idea of the clocks and when do you how do you again, I think we've talked a little bit about Blades in the Dark, although at some point I will release that. I'm really close, Ty. We are going to release it. Getting your head wrapped around the idea of the clocks, where basically you're kind of, instead of, they're just kind of incrementing time, kind of moving you through an event, and kind of creating that tension to get things done is pretty cool.
Yeah. So. Excellent. Well, I'll check that out. And then let's talk some other items of geekery and game adjacent things. So I I have 1 win and 2 losses in my last 3 RPG books purchased. So it was some random Friday recently where I got home right as we were getting ready to sit down for dinner. The power went out, and we were like, what the heck? And We Energies was like, estimated time of service return 8 p.m. or 8:30. Some car accident, somebody hit a line, right? So we found like a little lantern, lit some candles, ate our dinner, and I was like, I don't want to sit here in the dark. Like, let's go out. So we went to Board Game Barrister, and then we went to Daddy O's to get Froyo. By the time we got home, power was back on. So it was like, great. anyways, at the game store, I was browsing and I saw the new Heroes. I have them here. Forgotten Realms, Heroes
Yep.
of Faerun,
Yep.
and Forgotten Realms, Adventures in Faerun, the DM's
Yep.
supplement. And I had seen these at Gen Con. I think I talked about the panel and how I was just kind of, but I was like, you know what, maybe they're better than I'm thinking. Man, it's getting hard for me to continue to like enjoy the new D&D products. I feel like something's happening with kind of the books that I'm not I don't even know how to describe it. Like
Yep.
I could probably formulate thoughts and come up with like a 30-minute, lecture on what is wrong with D&D, but it makes me sound like one of those assholes that's like, I only play second edition. I refuse to play blah blah blah. Thaco. Like I don't want to be like that. I want to be willing to accept that it is way beyond
Yep.
I think wherever like D&D was thought to be possible, right? Like the audience they've hit. And I see some of the changes and I'm like, I don't mind like they're changing the game. So they're doing this like one-page adventure concept in that book. They're doing like a bunch of new spells that I don't really see the balance like there
Yep.
anymore. And they're it's like they splashed a ton of new stuff, but it feels like it's new just to have something new,
Yeah.
not like this really cool story-driven narrative campaign or like a book that plays out through. It's just a totally different like look and feel, and it's not landing with me. Like,
Yeah. Well, I guess where I am is I've looked at those books like at least 2 times, probably 3 times, and I still haven't bought them. Like, because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that'd be kind. And I think I'm just, and partly I'm like, I'm like, well, maybe I'll get them on. I hate to do it, but I'm like, I'm gonna get them as cheap as I can on Amazon, maybe
Yeah.
just to like, to get whatever. Because I'm just not excited around again, I haven't even looked at them too much, but everything I'd kind of heard just didn't get me, which is sad because Forgotten Realms is such
Yeah.
great.
I love the Realms.
It's a great background and setting, and there's so much richness. And Ed Greenwood has put his heart and soul in that thing for 50 years. And
I loved
there's
Baldur's
so
Gate
much
3.
stuff.
I loved the game. Like I love experiencing the world. This
Yep.
just felt it felt pasted on a little bit. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they
it's
said
like,
we're going to explore these areas that haven't been explored, but then they give you like 6 pages and nothing really like weighty. And then they did an Icewind Dale section, and it's like you have all of this. You have 10 towns. You have like, why are we rehashing this? It felt very like, and they're a business. They're a big business,
right? And you can definitely, unfortunately, it feels like there's a little and maybe not, right? It feels a little bit of the marketing or kind of it's kind of like a movie, right? There were notes from notes from the studio, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, we need, I imagine who knows, right? They started with like, here's, because you have so much great lore and whatever. Here's the book, and then it goes up, and then there's notes about, well, where are the new spells? Where's the new, right? If somebody's thinking like, what do we put in here so people, thinking that the only reason people are going to buy this is if there's new stuff for their characters or new classes or things like that. But I don't think you needed that, right? I think you could have made it just a pure lore book. And maybe that's what I was looking for, and that's me, right? That they're not selling to me, so who knows? And I have all the, I don't know. I look back and I'm big nostalgia. I had the original, whatever that was, 2nd edition box set for Forgotten Realms, and that was, and I had the giant poster. Did you ever have the giant poster tie?
Oh yeah, the poster map. Yeah,
and it was on my wall for I don't know how many. I'm going back. I'm like, man, that thing was worth $1 billion if I didn't have it stuck to my wall with whatever poster tack for 5 years.
There's a map in the book, a poster map. I haven't looked at it yet because I'm worried it's not incredible.
Yeah. I mean, the other one, it was literally a wall. I don't know how big it was. Huge. Like it came in the box. Yeah, like it went on my wall. It was like 4x6 or something crazy. It probably wasn't, but it felt like it was.
It felt like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then, so I did say I had 1 win and 2 losses. Those are the 2 losses, but then the win was 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. Not sure if you're familiar with that one, Troy. It was published back in, I think, 2019. It's been reprinted several times. I'd heard about it. I never really had seen a copy in the wild. And I saw one on the shelf. I'm like, that's a beautiful book. And I started flipping through it. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. So 1,000-Year-Old Vampire is a solo journaling role-playing game where you are creating the memories and experiences that fill those memories of a vampire that has lived for 1,000 years. As you play, there are dice rolls and skills, and you add your experiences to your memories. But eventually, after living that long, you start to lose some of those memories to form new memories. So it's kind of you're experiencing the loss of first your mortality, then your like loved ones, then your experiences as you go through the centuries. And it is a journaling game in that as you go into it, you gain, like, your body manifests some trait related to the vampire that created you. How do you become more like them? Create a skill that reflects this. And it's a prompt, and then you would go and write. And then you might, as you gain these skills, you will use them. Some of the prompts will have you do skill checks. So you actually will have like stats that get built out. But it looks really cool. I hope I find the time to actually start playing, because I do like writing. I do like the idea of it. And the book is just gorgeous. Like, there's inserts of random number tables. It looks like pen has been written in and things have been circled, because it's like a book that is found in like a library. Like withdrawn, it's just, I don't know. It's really cool. I'm excited to kind of dig in and see what it's all about. They do, go to some level to say like this game is going to make you feel some feelings and take you places that are violent and dangerous. And so, like, at its core, I think they dive into, what how could you possibly feel after 500 years of being dead, right? Like 1,000 years. So we'll see. Introspective, emotional, and sometimes frightening role-playing game built for lonely solo play across a few hours or many weeks, intended for mature players. So we'll see, but it feels like a win. I wanted to share that I picked that up.
It's good. So maybe we just need to challenge ourselves to solo journaling games, because I have a couple here. Rylem, I think. I don't know where I probably picked this up at Gen Con, I think. And it just looked interesting. Solo journey to mysterious isles. Time is short and this world is dying. Can you uncover the mysteries of Rillium and its last inhabitants before everything collapses? Looks like this uses some cards as their mechanic for kind of die roll. It's really short. Not unlike the vampire one. This is just like a pamphlet. So, but because I'm like, everything I've heard, there's some really good ones out there, and and it's a good reason to write and to find some stuff. So maybe Ty, maybe we'll hold each other accountable. That doesn't usually work either.
I mean, we're already through November. We didn't write a novel. Maybe we journal a little bit.
That's right. Yeah.
You
know what? That's not. I didn't even get. It wasn't on my radar at all this year. That's
2025, man. It's just a time blur.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny. Usually it's on my. At least I feel guilty for a second, or at least I have the in some time have a thought like, oh, it wouldn't be cool to do something. I didn't even until you said it. Didn't even realize that. Yeah. I'm like. November was streaking past this year. It's been a crazy month. My other one, just again, side tangent, and I think I had mentioned it, and I think if you're on YouTube, I might have showed it. I don't know. So Kemet, they released. I bought the old Kickstarter or new Kickstarter, but old to us, whatever, a year ago. Not even, it might have been a year ago. Delivered sometime in the summer. It was the expansion something about gods. I don't remember what it is, but basically they gave you a box that it's literally like, I'm looking over at my shelf. It fits in one of my 12
It
by
looks
12.
like a mini fridge.
Yeah, it's like, so I did have a whole gaming experience of reboxing, because you basically took out a blood and sand and took everything out and reboxed it into the big vat that's there. And I didn't even do it all really good because I didn't set up all the individual player board containers that you have. I just kind of moved everything over, and like at some point, first time we play it, we'll organize that stuff. But that was my watching football on Sunday, and reboxing Kemet was because I had to get it off I wanted to get it off my table and and clear up my shelves and some of that stuff too. So, but it is pretty nice. I mean, it's and it's interesting. I mean, maybe it's an interesting, as we did Andromeda's Edge, which has a lot of like game trays, the plastic trays for organization. They didn't do that kind of stuff. This is really like just more heavy cardboard boxes inside that, with some of that. And in some way, it's interesting. I'll get your opinion, Ty. I don't know where, like the game trays, so much as they're functional and whatever, aesthetically, they're a little right? It's like plastic, what, right?
Yeah.
And I do find, again, this is just cardboard, and are they? I don't know, right? I'm not going to throw this against a wall, so it's like they're probably going to do the job just fine, and they do look so much nicer with the print. They're all color printed and nice individual boxes and stuff like that. So it was an interesting kind of comparison, where we have, because as much as the game tray stuff and all that is kind of cool, I do kind of think it's sometimes not the most aesthetically pleasing stuff like that. So I like where they went with this, because that whole idea here was, I mean, it's a beautiful box. Like the outside is got like a gem on it, and it's all gold kind of leaf stuff around it too. So I love how they kind of kept that theme through the thing and kept things through. So who knows, pretty boxes. That's her.
You want your games to look cool when they're on a shelf. All right, let's crack open the library door and walk down the steps. Remember when we used to have the soundbite of walking down the stairs?
I might have added it. I might have added it in. You don't. Well, I don't listen either.
I don't.
But, I might have added it in a couple episodes ago. Listeners will tell us.
Yeah, I'll go listen to that section.
I
What I actually do is I watch like the first 3 minutes, and then I watch the last like 3 minutes, because I want to see if you're hiding like B-roll clips or doing anything in there. But and then I want to make sure my intro doesn't sound too cheesy and corny, because I'm my own worst critic. But anyways, library doors open. Let's talk about what we have been reading. So Troy, how about you get started?
All right. I finally finished Malazan 6, which is the Bone Hunters. It takes me about 2 months to finish a Malazan book. I think that's about my normal. Right. That's about
and 44 hours at 1.2 speed, or 50 hours at 1x. Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about, I totally love this book. It was I loved how it just ramped up when you got to the end. You're like, where's this going? And I mean, each of the books kind of does that, but it feels like, especially 3 and 6 were like the ends of arcs. I don't know, I haven't read 7 yet, so I don't know, but like we're kind of the ends of arcs. And so a whole lot I was trying to figure out, like, hey, he's got like all these threads laying out here. How is he going to like bring this all together? He never brings them all quite together, because you're like, oh, there are a few more books left. So, but it is very satisfying how much he gets through. So yeah. And this book had, again, I don't want to go into for people who haven't, but there's a million characters but I think in 6, it was interesting. Like you had all the big players back, and there were just some really, really cool scenes where you had some of the major characters kind of interacting and together, and you're like, and they all kind of randomly, and randomly to us, right? Erickson has his big plan. You're like, oh, all these cool people like are in the same place. And that, but a lot of the really the major kind of really cool characters all in the same place, and a lot of interesting. I have to almost go back because there's actually a lot of revelation and kind of learn. He reveals a lot of stuff. It's like, oh, I read 1,000 pages, and in like these 2 sentences, I'm gonna like flip everything on its head for you. So
he does. He just constantly.
And I'm like, and I have to, and I'm like, wait, I have to. And you're listening, like you're like, wait, go back. Is that really what I think is going on? So, so enjoying that. I'm trying to. The problem is like I'm like, I'm gonna have to read something else, but I'm getting so far into the story now. I'm like, when am I going to just dive? And the problem is you dive in. Now I'm like committed for 2 months, right? For the next book. But I'll probably get through the end of the year and then early next year dive into 7 to keep things going. So, and then very recently Mighty Nein, the animated series, came out on Amazon. I did not really watch a whole lot of that campaign. That's the Critical Role campaign 2. That was the characters on there. I don't know anything about the story. I know a little bit about the character and what characters people were. So I started watching that, and it's so I'm kind of drinking from the fire hose a little bit. It is interesting, intriguing. I love how they did the animation. It's a little bit of character introduction, but at least the first episode is a lot of action and kind of just throwing right into the story, and figuring out where things are happening too. So I'll have to do that. And it'll be interesting because, like I said, I didn't watch a whole lot of the Mighty Nein when they were actually doing the Critical Role side. So a lot of it will all be surprises to me and learning. So
is that the one that started in the carnival?
I don't know what.
Or was that campaign 3? No, I'm mixing up.
Yeah, I don't, because I don't know. Yeah, I don't.
I'll watch.
I'll know for sure that. Well, I'll tell you that this doesn't start in the carnival at all. Like you don't even have It's more of, I think he's telling the override. I say he. I don't know what they. Right. The first episode is really setting more of the setting and the overall, like, what is the party going to up against? It's almost the background. And then a few of the characters start to get introduced kind of along the way here, but a lot of it is just who's the big bad and what is the ultimate goal of the campaign, which is I really liked it as a way to jump in, because I'm not a big fan of like, let's all meet in a bar. I think that works for D&D. It doesn't work for a TV show, right? That's kind of, or a book or something else like that, right? So I like how they're telling the story. So
honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to do a tavern start again. I'm having so much fun as I start different campaigns with like starting in the action or in like, various scenarios. That's the fun in it now, is like, how do you do it differently?
Yeah. Well, I think, right. Not that any of us are Critical Role, and we talked a little bit about that, but campaign 4, I think, is set a whole new, like, the way they start, right, is that's setting a whole new bar for how you start your campaign.
Yeah. I stole it almost wholesale. Well, not wholesale, but I started the Vecna campaign I'm running with Matt and Tom and Elena at a funeral of their old party member. They get summoned to Neverwinter by their 5th party member, who there was like a splitting of ways. So I wrote this kind of story, and they don't know why they're going to Neverwinter, but they arrive, and it's for the funeral of their old friend who has been killed in this, cultist infested temple, and his remains brought back. But I was like, funeral's a great way to start. Like, that's fantastic. Oh yeah. Mighty Nein. I'm going to check that out. It's on my list of watch it when I finish season 3 of The Diplomat. I've been playing too many video games, not watching anything.
Yeah, I know.
But hey. I see your question here. Did I
You want to jump
see?
in, or we can do it? We can
Yeah.
finish with that. But yeah, I stumbled on. We had talked a little bit about, and I'm sure we talked about here. We actually did it was an old BOD book club from whatever, a couple of years ago, Project Hail Mary. And the trailer for the movie is out. It might have been out, whatever. I stumbled across it and I got super excited. I'm like, I think they're close. There's some we were like, there's some challenges of how do you bring that to the screen.
Yep.
But I think they might have done a well, right. You can always make the trailer look good, but I think it feels like they did a good job. I'm super excited to see that.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm still trying to get over Ryan Gosling. I didn't see that casting choice. I was when I first read the book, I think I was seeing more like Rainn Wilson or like more middle-aged, maybe a little more like everyman, not Ryan Gosling, but he's a good actor, so we'll see. That was my only thought when I saw it, was him in the role. You know how sometimes you get that dissonance of like what you read and how you pictured it versus how it's cast and who it is. So, but yeah, it does look good. That comes out around holidays, right? Like Christmas.
I don't know. I didn't read that far. I just got excited and then I didn't actually look to see when it was coming out.
I thought it was around Christmas, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's like July of next year. I don't know.
Yeah, it might be some
Memorial Day. Christmas, Memorial Day, same difference.
A holiday. You're right. It comes out around a holiday.
Time isn't real, Troy. Either is how long it's taking me to read that book. I'm on like page 70 of the I'm just calling it the time book. Let's see, Troy. Malazan book 9 I finished. I did listen to The Lost Tomb, a collection of Douglas Preston's articles, newspaper stories, or magazine stories that he wrote over the years. He and his co-writing partner, editor Lincoln Childs, write a lot of like murder mystery and stuff that gets made into movies. Enjoyed that. It was kind of nonfiction. He talked about actual like serial killers or disappearances, or the last one was around like, the Valley of the Kings in Egypt and some of the exploration of some of the tombs that are uncovered there in the 2013. And then I decided to go full degenerate listener and listen to a lit RPG, and started the series. One that Bryce had really enjoyed, and one that kept like popping up on my like you should read suggestions. So I finally caved and I read book 1 of Primal Hunter, classic progression style, gaining experience and adding skills, very like lit RPG. But it was enjoyable. I listened to it mostly on my work commutes and sometimes over lunch, or like if I was doing something around the house. And I bought book 2. I'll see how far down the rabbit hole I go, because my reading has been abysmal this year. Like I started strong, but I think I've only read like 21 books, which is a down year for me. Considering the average American doesn't read 1 book in a year, and there's some percentage, I want to say it's like 30% of adults in America haven't read a book since they graduated from high school. Like, I'm feeling pretty good about 20 in that context, but it's not the 40 to 50 that I usually kind of push myself for.
Usually lap me on, because I'm I cheat a little bit with short stories, but I've got 23 kind of counted this year. So, but and even that, I don't think I'm behind, because I read 2 Malazan books, so that's literally a quarter of the year I spent in that world. To just get 2 books, but so I'm kind of counting those double or something. But so I'm happy. I mean, you can't, like you said, a lot of people don't read at all. So
yeah, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, I'm gonna be happy with whatever number I get.
Celebrate the act of reading and the experience. That being said, the experience and only reading 20 books or 21 books, let's just skip a break and dive right
Mhm.
into kind of our main topic, which is really highlighting some of the better reads. I'm not going to say the best reads of the year, but the better reads of the year. What we enjoyed the most, and I will kick it off. I look back in my reading history, and I finished the book, so I'm counting it from date finished, not date started. And
Yep.
why this is important is because on January 4th of 2025, I finished John Gwynn's Fury of the Gods, book 3
Okay.
of the Bloodsworn. That book was the end of a journey in those 3 books. Orca's quest for finding Brecca, I
Yep.
think.
Yep.
The revenge arc, all the other characters, Varg and his story, all of these wonderful characters, and book 3 really just kind of brought it home. That was on my short list as far as better reading experiences. And also why I thought of that is back in the end of October, John Gwynn put up kind of a little cheeky post on his social medias, which was an image of computer screen that said "Book 1, the end," with his hands on the
Mhm.
keyboard. Hasn't said what the project is, I don't think. We haven't seen an announcement, but evidently his first run of a new book was done. So always great to see what John Gwynn is cooking up. I've always liked his stuff too. So that one, Fury of the Gods, was definitely on the list since I had the benefit of finishing it barely into the year.
And yeah, enjoyed that series. Book 3 was a little, I'm gonna say it I don't think it held up as good as the other first 2, but there were some other extenuating circumstances. I'm glad he got it out and around on some of that, and definitely enjoyed it. And the character, it was fun to bring the characters to an end around some of that stuff. But yeah, some at some point there's a book club around that whole the Fury of the Gods stuff in there. So I'm gonna are we gonna do 3? I got 3.
Yeah, let's do 3.
3.
3 is a
I'll
good
do them
number.
in the kind of my order. I'm gonna call out and I mentioned this was I read in May. Interceptor City. So Dan Abnett's return to Double Eagle, 40K, which is basically his World War II 40K world, around some of that. Again, the Savat worlds and the thing there. Double Eagle was all about kind of the flying, the actual flying in the air, not in space. But basically based on World War II fighting and things like that. I reread Double Eagle when I knew he had done the second book, so I reread that early in the year, and then read Interceptor City in May, which was the revisit. And literally 20 years, it's 20 years after he wrote Double Eagle. And what's interesting, he basically moves the characters in the book. They jump ahead 20 years and look at basically one of the core, Jagia, who's the captain, and follows her journey through an interesting thing. So just, again, a lot of nostalgia. Again, it's Abnett, so it's above average 40K book. It's still a 40K book around some of that. But so a lot of nostalgia, and enjoyed that. And it's pretty good if you like kind of, again, action. I think he does a good job of, again, he always does such a good job, because you're like, oh, it's another double. You're like, oh, he's just gonna do another Double Eagle. And he always, just like he does in Gaunt's Ghosts, all of those, whatever they're 20 books, you're always like, oh, it's gonna be again, maybe it's like our Frosthaven. Like, I'm always expecting, like, oh, he's gonna tell the story, another story like the one he told us. And he finds a way to kind of flip it on its head and turn it all around and tell a completely different story than what you're kind of expecting, but have that element, you're grounded in kind of the 40K and aerial fighting and things like that too. So Interceptor City was one of my favorites for the year as I look back.
Excellent. I think the next one is a book that kind of snuck up on me. It came recommended, not even recommended. Somebody just said, "Oh, I'm reading this. It kind of talks about time travel, but It's called All Our Wrong Todays. I read it back in May, I think. Elon Mastal, and it's a book about a time traveler that lives in a utopian future where there was this nuclear like technology developed that made life better, and it went on along a timeline where everything's great. Like there's not hunger, there's not, all the issues that we see in our world today. And then the main character goes through kind of this disaster and tries to fix it, but they end up kind of splitting off of the timeline they'd been in, and they realize they're in like 2018 of our world and what has happened since this event, and tries to determine the fix it. And like you start to see these different splits of this person, and you see reference. He, like when he was a kid, he made drawings of these fantastic domed cities and things, and they start to show that the timelines were actually all experienced. And he was meeting other versions of himself, and it gets way into like the metaphysics of time travel and kind of experiences. But it was a book that really made me just kind of think about perspective and like where you are at, and appreciating the relationships and like the things that, even if there is this utopian vision for a future, maybe that means you don't meet the love of your life. Maybe that means you don't experience the family that you have. Like all of these big themes, because there's this romance story that follows through it, and like so that book from just an experience really kind of stayed with me, and enjoyed that one.
Cool. My number 2, and again, I'm using your our rule here, Ty. So I started this one in December, finished it in January of this year.
Count it.
One of your recommendations and favorites, The Black Tongue Thief, Christopher Buehlman. Such a good book. Again, you had talked about it, but until I experienced it, I'm like, wow. And I have not read Daughter's War yet. It's kind of on my maybe my filler book between Malazan books here, or on some of that. But Black Tongue Thief, fantasy. I want to say, I mean, it's Abercrombie-ish, but completely different. Like Bueller is his own, or Buehlman is his own, our own thing. And his, I'll recommend
the grit of Abercrombie.
Yep.
It's the prose of Rothfuss.
Oh, yeah.
It's the like intrigue of Martin. Like,
and then he reads it himself.
Yeah.
As good as Stephen Pacey. So like that's what I remember starting that, and I think I had talked about back when I had done it, and I had to double check. I'm like, wait, like who's reading this? Where is he from? How's he doing? And I was just blown away by the accents and the voices and everything that he does with it. Such a fun book, great characters. Kind of the gritty fantasy that we really enjoy, and really enjoyed that book. So that's my.
And I'm telling you, I went on a Buehlman trip. Like I've read Between Two Fires. I've read. I just saw Raph post in a Discord about reading his first novel, which was like a Southern Gothic, like Those Across the River, I think it's called. I read his Vampires in New York. I've read I've gone through and read all the Buehlman I can get my hands on, because he's fantastic.
I think we have the same number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question that it is. We've talked about Lord Grimdark, Joe Abercrombie, his new series, The Devils. If you had told me it was going to be a different world from like The First Law, those books would have been like, I really want more in that world. But then he took like this kind of medieval Europe, like where the Pope is like alternate reality, like Middle Ages Europe. And man, that's going to be a book. I think I don't reread books like annually, like often. I usually wait several years. Like I reread Name of the Wind. I feel like The Devils is when I will reread in 2026. and maybe 27 until like the next book
So
comes
it
out,
comes out.
like just to keep experiencing
Yeah.
those characters and that story, and like see what I can glean from it that I may have missed, in my first read, because all of the scenes are so detailed and so much is
Yep.
happening, and the characters do these little things that call back to other events, and there's clues, little breadcrumbs left,
Yeah.
to figure stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about a lot. So enjoyable. The characters are so, again, you look at the premise and you're like, how is this going to, and he just makes it work. And it's funny. And I don't remember if I told somebody, but you're reading it and I'm laughing because there's some really fun parts, whatever. And I know he's gonna make me cry like that, and he did, like he did it, but you're going through it, and it just the way he's able to tell the emotions, and again, and it's a fantasy story, and you got monsters and whatever, and the way he gets you emotionally invested, and just you're having the enjoyment of all this stuff and just the fun, and I love that it's again. I want to say self-contained, right? It tells the story, the full arc. Again, there's more for him to tell if he wants to, but I think you get a lot of satisfaction out of it. And because you enjoy it so much, you're like, oh, I want to see more of these, some of these characters, at least in some way. It'd be great to see how if he can move them again. So yeah, The Devils by Joe Abercrombie was for sure my number one of the year. So,
and I'm gonna ask you, so the elf Sunny.
Yep.
And follow me along to Age of Madness and Rika.
Yep.
I think they're sisters. I think they come from the same dysfunctional family line when you think about those characters. And I've had this thought about how fun would it be to see those characters interact with one another. Like the awkwardness of Sunny, the awkwardness of Rika with like coming into what they are, and I don't know, just it was a fun thought experiment I had about two really great characters from two
I mean, Sunny,
books.
There's great. My favorite character, it was great to actually meet Joe this year, and I actually got to tell him that Sunny was my favorite character in the book, which again, just great memories around some of that. So maybe slightly biased around that, but I think even without meeting him this year, I would still have Devils as my number one book. So
yeah. Man, just there are some authors that like I don't care what they write, I will go get it the moment it comes out and check it out. So
yep.
All right. Well, that is our year in books. Next time we'll talk about our year and other stuff, but that is our library recap. If you haven't read any of those, we'll certainly put the names and titles and authors back in show notes for you to reference. Highly recommend. Check it out. Let us know what you think. If you read one and you don't like it, cool. Read what you like, but those are what we loved. Troy, I think that gets us to the point in the show where we talk about how winter doesn't have a lot of gaming conventions. And we may need to spice it up with like a board game weekender in January, or something. However, if you are in the southeastern Wisconsin area and you're looking to fill a void in the winter landscape of conventions, there is Midwinter gaming convention it's in Pewaukee, at the Ingleside Hotel and Conference Center. Used to be Country Springs, but nobody will know what that is. Just like the golf course used to be Willow Run, and now it's not Willow Run. Man, every time I
turn at that fork in the road where they cut the tree down.
Yeah. Man, every time I go to Waukesha, something's different. So, but yeah, January 9th through 11th. It's a cool little con. Lots of board gaming, some RPGs, a small kind of little vendor space, but a lot of people playing games. Definitely check it out. I don't know. I'll likely go for like a day or two this year. I don't think I'm doing the full thing, but we'll be there for some of it.
Definitely in there. we'll let people know. I'm gonna try and see if they have any room. I can still sneak in event. We weren't super prepared this year, but I may run just a Zombicide game there on either the Friday or Saturday. If I think it's Anne who runs it, it's a wonderful woman, and see if she can sneak me in on a table somewhere on there. So
very cool. And then Adepticon. So I March, not that it is winter, but March 25th through the 29th, back at the Baird Center, downtown Milwaukee. We will likely have much Adepticon content as we head towards it. I just had a planning meeting with my partners in crime to talk about the events that I'm running this year. So last year I did small RPG table, a couple sessions. And rather than try to run more RPG sessions, I decided let's run a 12-player event 2 days in a row, all day. So doing a Trench Crusade narrative event, which should be a lot of fun with the help of Dr. Gabe and also but don't ask him for medical advice, Brian Nero. We're going to do a pretty cool kind of, if you're familiar with what Steve Herner does with Holy Wars and Holy Havoc, where each table is the scenario and the table has rules, we're kind of taking that and bringing that to Trench Crusade, and tailoring scenarios to the table, and then having kind of a progressive kind of branching narrative round to round over 3 rounds. So Brian's working on cooking up some table ideas. Gabe and I are talking scenarios and kind of mission pack, but that's coming. So I should have talked about that but Adepticon, seeing it there made me think about that. If you want to hear some other narrative discussion and kind of planning, Raph and I went deep on kind of after we finished the last episode of the campaign trail. We just were spitballing ideas about how you could make something like this work. And we told listeners, hey, if you're still here, you want to hang out, listen. And we started bouncing some ideas around narrative events and what you could do and how different mechanics you could use. So Campaign Trail is the Goonhammer Patreon podcast series. So certainly if you have a few extra dollars each month, throw it that way. And then listen to Raph and I talk about campaign games like Relic Blade and Trench Crusade. All right, I'm done plugging. That's my marketing. I'm contractually I have to do that. Raph told me I need to start promoting. So
no, we're good. Yeah, and if you, again, I'm a Patreon on Goonhammer just so I can listen to Ty actually, or maybe because I like supporting that site. Great site, tons of information on there, whether it's painting, 40K competitive advice, or their media network, which we are part of, and something like that. So very worth your investment to get support a great site to doing that stuff too. So and Adepticon, we'll definitely be hearing about that. We're 4 months away. Almost exactly.
Yep.
Exactly 4 months away, which is like we're behind the time. As I always like, we're behind.
Frightening.
On some of that, but so we'll be going there. So,
well, it has been an enjoyable session, Troy, back with the two of us in the room. As we are, heading towards the episode 100, hoping to get, everybody back and maybe more. We'll see what we can cook up for episode 100. But next, episode 98, we'll get Bryce back, hopefully, and kind of talk year in review. For now, though, please, leave us a review, like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching there. Download off pretty much any podcast place you can think of. And maybe someday join us live. We almost went live tonight. We'll see what happens in the future. But you can reach out, info@basementofdeath.com, or Ty at all of us at basementofdeath.com. Visit basementofdeath.com/ that's another website. You have a different link that can get you right to playinandslayin.com.
That just shows you all all the podcast. But Basement of Death, again, we do put usually all the events we run and things like that. A lot of the rules are stuff there. There's an empty page for Trench Crusade right now that's waiting for Ty to
it'll get
provide
full.
some content. So there we go.
It'll get full. It will. And also Goonhammer, we talked about it. Check out the Media Network, check out other partner shows, and enjoy. All right. Thank you, Troy. As always, a true pleasure to hang out and chat. I feel like as these days get longer, shorter, and the nights get
Sure, yeah,
longer,
right.
we need these moments to check in and play more games. So keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying.